All right, we are looking at the lights coming through. We're at George Brendler Field. It's the 12th day of September 2022. We are gathered here at 9 hours and 12 minutes into the PM for the return, a triumphant return, we might say, of the Chazy boys soccer team. They have just completed their 500th victory under Coach Rob McAuliffe. Many members of the student body here at Chazy are racing over to greet the bus. They've been escorted in by a local fire truck. I'm not sure if it was Beatmantown or Chazy. That's I think it's Chazy fire truck would be appropriate. I think, in fact, I think it was Lee Barcombe who was supposed to be driving that flashing little vehicle right there. So Rob McAuliffe has won his 500th game as coach, varsity coach at Chazy Central Rural School. We'll probably hear the statistics tonight, but I think I saw Lee Barcombe posting something like in 26 seasons, averaging 18 and a half victories per year. So it's been a remarkable run, over a quarter of a century to do it. But it's not like a Major League Baseball season where a team can win 100 games. If you win in the 20s, you've had an excellent season, because that means you've made the playoffs and you haven't lost too many games along the way. So you get, if you're lucky, you get to probably low 20s for total games in the season. Before we go any further, we want to thank Maggie Tremblay for running the camera and Joey Tremblay for handling the microphone, as they were there for Hometown Cable in Lake Placid covering that championship game. So we want to thank them for doing that for us. Folks here at Chazy contacted me early in this season to make sure that we knew that the 500th victory was within grasp, as Sarah Gagno escorts Lee Barcombe onto the field. Here comes Coach Rob McAuliffe getting a cheering welcome home on this 12th day of September 2022 here at George Brendler Field. And of course, George Brendler is here. George was Rob's coach, and he is here to welcome home Rob and to help with the ceremonies. Joey Tremblay will be our master of ceremonies, as we're turning to get a quick look at some of the people who have gathered here on this night, pleasant night, probably 70 degrees out, and nice turnout. Not the whole community knew that this little welcome home was going to happen, because first of all, they didn't know they were going to win it till they won it. And then they wanted to keep it as big a surprise as possible. So that little PA system was working great for the music, but between Sarah and Joey, they'll be figuring it out. There's always somebody who has to do the heavy lifting after the the roadie has to
Good evening, and
carry
we're
the stuff
here for a
off the
very
bus.
special night tonight. Since the dedication of this field in 2005 to Coach George Brendler till today, there have been many special moments on this field, from very classic soccer games to celebrations of state championships. But tonight we have another milestone. Coach McAuliffe's 500th career win. New York State Public High School Athletic Association's boys soccer record book shows 11 other coaches have reached 500 career wins, and perhaps 2 others may have eclipsed the mark since the site has been updated. And what I'm sharing with you tonight is from our extraordinary statistician, Lee Barcombe, so we can give him a big hand for the information I'm sharing with you right now. CCRS boys career record since 1953 is 935 wins, 183 losses, and 56 ties for an .820 winning percentage. Under Coach McAuliffe's career record, his record is 500 wins, 43 losses, and 24 ties, an incredible .903 winning percentage. 9 out of every 10 games, he comes off the field with his team a winner. Coach McAuliffe's teams have won more than half of the Eagles' career victories and have lost less than a quarter of the Eagles' career losses. His 20 years of coaching have averaged 18.5 wins per season, and we're only 6 games into his 27th season. For many of you who probably know this, and for some of you that don't, Rob's playing career in Chazy, he was a 5-year varsity starter from 85 to 89, where he amassed a total of 60 goals, 25 assists, and 125 points, making him one of the most prolific players in Chazy soccer history. McAuliffe began coaching his beloved Chazy Eagles in the fall of 1996, succeeding his mentors George Brendler and Tom Tregan. There's no doubt that Rob bent the ears of both these men for many years and relied on their advice to lead to his success. Matter of fact, his first career victory came against Seton Catholic, 2-0 in the Seton preseason tournament. Coach McAuliffe is heavily involved in the administration of high school soccer statewide, including serving as Section 7 coordinator for several years. As one coaching colleague told Lee, when Coach McAuliffe's milestone gets celebrated, please recognize what he does for the sport of soccer as a whole and how much of a gentleman he is. That sums it up pretty well, in my opinion. In 26 full seasons of coaching, McAuliffe's teams have won 9 New York State championships, a state record, 18 New York State regional championships and Final Four appearances, 21 Section 7 titles, and 23 league titles. There were no league titles or state play in 2020 because of COVID. Now, we will get to Coach McAuliffe, but before we do, we want to bring the Hall of Fame coach, George Brendler, who this field is named after, up to the mic, please. Coach George Brendler.
Thank you, Joey. I have a printout of an article that appeared in the paper in '97, the fall of '97. It says, after 13-year wait, McAuliffe could finally go places with the Chazy Eagle. Anybody remember that? Well, it was a big deal, you know, because he had started in '96, and this was the first year that you were going somewhere. This storyline starts out, Rob's career and success, what Joe had already mentioned, that extreme thing that you've been able to create, a record of such magnitude, you know. Section titles, state titles, and 500 wins. But we have to say that there's a back story to this article. How did this happen to come about? And the article said, 13-year wait. So 1997, that means in 1984, something happened. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
So what happened?
So the boys team went to the Final Four, and I was the ball boy, and I couldn't go because I was a ball boy and it went too far away, right? It was too far away, right?
Did you hear that? what happened was this was a big deal, and in the article, Rob mentions as the coach now. By the way, I should mention when this occurred, they were going to the state playoffs, the state Final Four, and people like James Mosher, Pat McAuliffe, Mac Devins, Gene Lauren, John Fredericks, Kevin Ryan, Chris Trombley, those names should sound familiar, were the team that he was coaching. So anyway, what happened was this was new to us back then. It isn't for Rob and you people that have been around all these years. He's got it all figured out. But we didn't know. We were going to the Final Four, and we had the girls going to the Final Four. We had 2 buses lined up, and where's the money coming from? Where do we go? Who gets the reservations and so on? So it was a big deal. And the last thing in my mind, I apologize, was the ball boys who wanted to go on the trip. But that brings me to something else. That's the special person that started this whole thing that you're witnessing now. That ball boy who wanted to be out here with us, giving of his time. You know, the little fellow. By the way, I see one running around that looks like you out there on the JVT. So anyway, that is a special thing that makes this an occasion that's unusual. To understand the fact that 500 wins doesn't just happen. Now, I'll give you a test to my record. When I came up here in 65, we've already had successes in soccer. History-wise, Chazy was different because we had Mr. Minor's building, and we were not part of the CCIL, the Clinton County Scholastic League. So we came in later, and we were, I hate to say this, but people, the other league teams used to call us the doormat of the league. Can you believe that? You know, that's not a very good thing to be faced with. When I came up, the doormat of the CCIL. Soccer wasn't as bad, but just the same. We had some successes in soccer. They had state champ. I think they had a sectional and they had a league championship. And even then, there were some Wests and Trombleys and Bayshard on their team. So anyway, you move up in my time by 75. We were pretty well established. We had successes. People believed. Despite of me, let's say, we were winning, and there was something special happening in Chazy. And as a result, you know, we were involved in the state playoffs. I, like Rob and Tom, we were very involved in forming the playoffs, or getting the state playoffs going. So, as a result, we were already getting some experience at that level. But it wasn't until '84 that I actually had a team go to the state final, the Final Four. And so that's the story behind how Rob didn't get to go, but he's made up, he made up for it with all these wins. But Joe has already described, a little background, but I'd say that as a young fellow, he was an outstanding player for me, 5 years, captain 3 years, and then he went on to college. Oh, and another thing too, while you were on the team, I think you go to soccer camp, and I remember he'd come back and they used to call him the schemer at the soccer camp. He'd scheme and plan things, and which is a special, you're looking at a special person, that's all I can say. That he had something that we are so glad to have, something that he's given to this community, his dedication. In fact, after college, he went to college while Mr. Tragan took over, and who continued the program, I think, quite well. And then Rob came back to coach his alma mater. And I think that was a special event for this town. It could have been different, could have been otherwise, but we happened to get Rob McAuliffe as our coach. And I would say that if you can understand what it took him, 40 years or more of coaching, thinking. In fact, one time I called his house, talking to Kristen. I said, can I speak to Rob? And she says, Rob who? He doesn't live here anymore. He's over at school. Well, not really true, but that's what it took. And the special effort that you have, and being an administrator, facing all the adversity of finances, the school is getting smaller. There are a lot of other things that a coach faces. Actually, Rob faced much more than I ever faced in my time. I had 245 wins. But, of course, the seasons were different, and when you don't go to the States, you don't have the extra numbers and so on. So I'm just throwing that out, 245 for 25 years. He was coaching for 26 now, and 500, so there you go. I think that is commendable. Above all, that I would say that I really think makes him a special person is that I have been made to feel part of the program all these years. There was a saying MacArthur mentioned when he was leaving, retiring, whatever, that old soldiers never die, they just fade away. And I don't feel that way. I didn't fade away, Rob, because you let me be part of the program. I'm part of the team. I'm part of the team, Coach. It's important. And the last thing I'll say is I was watching the picture being taken out there today, and you had the 500 in front of the kids, and Rob is off to one side right here. Rob was not out there saying, right in front of the 500, hey, it's me. It wasn't me. Not Rob. It was the team. It's us. It's our community. That's Rob. And I'm glad to have known him. And I wish him the great. And the next thing that Rob has to face is the biggest goal is the 10th championship and 600 wins.
Yeah. I just want 501.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Coach. So before we get to our next speaker, a couple other tidbits. The coach for the Plattsburgh High School girls, Tim Mulligan, wanted to be here tonight, but his son Owen had a game against Northeastern Clinton. Tim Mulligan was Coach McAuliffe's first captain. So a little bit of tidbit for you on that. And then through the years, from the time he started to now, to get to 500 wins, as the wins piled up, there were many great teams and many great players. But to you young gentlemen tonight, you were fantastic in Lake Placid. It was quite a show you put on. But you will go down in history as the team that brought Coach McAuliffe his 500th victory. So congratulations to you guys. Our next speaker, longtime official, Randy Lozier.
I'll keep this brief. I'm not sure I need the microphone, but I've known Rob on many levels. Rob and I started coaching the same year. He has a couple more wins than I do, about 497 actually. But we started the same year, and Rob immediately looked like one of the veterans of the coaches out there. He's done everything with class. With my new role as the interscholastic athletic coordinator, when I go to state meetings, even though Rob isn't the state coordinator, they look to him for advice. They look to him to know what he does in his program. Coaches in this area try to emulate what Rob does, but they aren't able to. The reason why is he garners the success, not just with himself, but he also is the first person to say, without my wife, without my assistant coaches, without my captains. He's always looking to give the spotlight to somebody else. At the state level, he has the most state championships. He's in the top 10 of all time of most wins. Yet you never hear the word I out of him. It's always we. We can't ask for a better ambassador in Section 7 than Rob McAuliffe in soccer. We wish him not only success this year and beyond, but the 500 wins that he always shares with everybody else. So on behalf of Section 7, thank you so much for being a great ambassador, not at the local level, but also the state level. Congratulations on 500, Rob.
All right, I'd like to bring up Brian Norcross.
Athletic Director.
I will also keep it brief tonight. And, we've heard about the wins, the stats, everything Rob has meant to the soccer program, kind of on a personal level. When I got hired in Chazy in 1998, I think Rob was on the committee that interviewed me. I'm surprised he did hire me. May regret that now. But I just feel lucky. Didn't know much about soccer. I grew up in a town not far away, but I think I was the only person when I interviewed not to mention my knowledge of soccer. And I guess it worked out for me. But on a personal note, I also had the pleasure when I moved in or took the job in 1998. Coach McAuliffe and I had the pleasure of living together for a couple years, which was a tremendous amount of soccer talk and knowledge, not much else. There were also times when we lived at a house near Bluff Point, and Coach Brendler knows on the 16th hole, and there were times we'd wake up in the summertime and we would see Mr. McAuliffe's brother and father on our deck coming to talk about soccer. No one gets that joke, but if you want to ask me, I'll fill you in on it. I don't know if John McAuliffe remembers those days or Pat, but my point is it's been a long time of being around Rob. And on a personal note, again, we talk about soccer, but I think what I would say is for the parents of this community, the students, the players who have played for him. I had the pleasure of my son playing for Coach McAuliffe for a handful of years. I couldn't be more blessed. I sat on the sidelines with him for many years. I've learned a lot of soccer from him. I've learned to be a better person from Rob. And I just want to say this, all of us here, his players, students, this community, we are thankful we have Rob. He's been a great colleague. He is now my boss that I respect tremendously. And more importantly, he has been a great friend to myself and everyone in this town. And we are just thankful to have him. And again, congratulations to Rob on everything he has done for us.
And just two more things before I give you Coach. The Frankie Garrow Memorial, 2 weeks ago. We make it to the finals, Plattsburgh High School. If you were to go to Vegas, we don't stand a chance. Could be a 3 or 4 goal game. Young Chazy team, all new defense, sweeper, stopper, fullbacks, goalie. Plattsburgh comes in with upperclassmen, documented resume, and people say to me, how did Chazy pull this game off? And I've had this conversation over the years many, many times from the state championships. Everybody goes to Rob, how do you do it? Every town has feeder programs. We have a feeder program. And yet we have year after year of success. And the reason is we have an intangible. And the intangible that nobody else has and they don't understand is Coach McAuliffe. And the reason he does that is because of the we factor, not the I factor. He brings this team in here. He gets them to believe in themselves. He gets them to play their hearts out. These guys, young men, and I've seen it for decades now, will go to battle for this man because how he makes them feel as individuals, that they're part of something special. And that is the intangible. Everybody has jamborees that we just saw. They have them all over the place. And they have soccer, and they have winter soccer, and they have summer soccer. but we have the intangible. We have Coach McAuliffe. And this is a milestone. And speaking of milestones, this isn't the only milestone tonight, because tomorrow is a very special milestone for Coach McAuliffe. It's Coach McAuliffe and Kristen's 19th wedding anniversary. I now give you Coach McAuliffe.
Yeah, my Google Calendar just gave me an alert to remind me that it's my anniversary tomorrow too. No, I don't know what to say. I just, I was not expecting this. All the modified boys thought that this is what happens when you beat Lake Placid at a modified game on a Monday. This happens every game, boys. They get used to it, fire trucks and everything. So I think a few of them, as you probably saw, did not know what was going on, but that's all right. But I really don't know what to say. I pride myself on being prepared for these type of things, and I'm totally ill-prepared. But I had one of the reporters today ask me, like, what is it? Why so much success? A lot of it is not that complex, really. At the end of the day, is that I've always loved my players. And I've always loved, coaching them. And I see some of them here today, and I still care about them today. Some of them are grown. Some, I have their sons on my team. And so I think in life what I've realized is that, if you care for other people, sometimes they care for you back. And I think that's all I've tried to do is show the boys that I do care for them. It's genuine. It's not like faked but it is for real. I do care for them. And I think in turn, we care for each other. And then when games happen, they play hard for each other. But I'm also reminded a lot of times when I hear all these nice things that you guys have said, and I appreciate it. But I'll never forget the moment I had with a first grade girl 2 days before the state Final Four. And a first grade girl was in her classroom, and I walked in, and she said to me, "Mr. McAuliffe, I am so excited for the boys' Final Four this weekend. I'm so excited for it." I said, "Oh, that is great." She goes, "My dad and I are going. I can't wait. I can't wait to, they're going to win a state. They're going to win a state championship." I know, honey, I know. It's going to be exciting. She goes, "I'm so excited to go." And she gave me the whole itinerary. We're going to leave in the morning. And so I said to her, "Well, that's great." And she walked away from me. And while she was walking away, she stopped halfway in the classroom and turned back to me and looked over at me and said, "Hey, on Monday, I'll let you know how they did." So kind of just when you think you're important, little kids remind you that maybe you're not that important. So for all those years, she never knew I was even the coach, just some old man walking the halls, I guess, right? But I do really want to thank, all of you for today. I want to thank all my current players who played so well today. I want to thank all my former players. It is great to think that I have James Mosier on my first team and Luke Mosier on my current team. And I still think James probably scored in my first game that we played, and Luke scored today, right? I've just been blessed with a lot of really good people in my life. Really, that's what it comes down to. And great players from all different, generations, and great assistant coaches and great youth coaches. And obviously a family of my wife, Kristen and Ava and Jack, who so often didn't see me from mid-August to the end of November. But I've just been really, really lucky and blessed to be in a community like this. And we all got to be, congratulate ourselves for all this that we've all done. And last thing is, COVID did have an impact on me. I think what it did was it made me realize how and be more thankful for the things I have. Those years where we didn't know if our kids were going to be able to play sports, or heck, we didn't know what was going on. And so since those days, I've always taken a step back and realized I need to be thankful. And so I want to say to you, I'm thankful for all of you, and thank you for the community I get to live in. And, I'm just a really lucky person and really thankful for all of you in the community I have. So I don't know what else to say, and thank you for today. Thanks.
Thank you for coming out. That is it.
All right, I'm sure there'll be plenty of photos be taken here shortly. If I'm sure people were snapping photos already. Again, this is September 12th, 2022. We're at George Brendler Field, and we're recognizing Coach Rob McAuliffe's 500th victory. An amazing accomplishment in high school soccer. And they'll get their picture taken by Sarah Gagno and and of course Lee, the stat man, the Barcombe, great job he does too. Once again, thanks to Joey and Maggie for covering that 500th victory, and a nice turnout here on a pleasant Monday evening. Thanks for watching viewer-supported Hometown Cable.